Get the funk up for this episode of the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast. On this episode, we're going to be covering the sample-heavy dance hit Batdance from the Batman album. And joining me on this episode is Edgar Krause. Welcome back to the show, Edgar.
Hi, Jason.
So, Edgar, we last were on another Love Sexy track. We did Glam Slam, I believe.
Yeah.
And that was a single, and so now we're doing another single. This is the biggest single from the Batman soundtrack, the very first track released off the album, Batdance.
Yeah.
So, as somebody who was alive in 1989, just like me, what memories of the Batman era, film, album, any subsequent tours that happened shortly after the release of the album, what do you want to share with the listeners about your experiences with this project?
Well, I have been a Batman fan longer than I've been a Prince fan. So to me, it was two worlds colliding when this album happened. I grew up with reruns of the 1960s TV show on the television, and my grandma had the old Silver Age comic books laying around, and I used to read it every time I visited her. So those are the Batman memories that I have. And when my next door neighbor's son moved out of the house, his mother gave me his collected newspaper clippings with comic strips from the 1960s, early 70s. So Batman has been a part of my entire youth, actually. And so then in 1984, the American Batman comics were starting to be released in Dutch on a monthly basis, starting with the origin story, The Untold Legend of the Batman, which is still one of my favorite Batman comics. And I was 10 at the time, and I had been growing up with those more silly and goofy Batman stories. And then as I was getting older, the character also started to become more serious. So I literally grew up along with the character. So 1984 was for a lot of people the year of Purple Rain. Well, not for me. I didn't even take notice of Prince until a year later. But 1984 was the year of the Batman for me.
Wow.
And as the years progressed, I grew older. I went to high school, and then the Batman stories started getting more serious, and it really fit my age at that point. So then The Dark Knight Returns was released, and that wasn't, well, it blew my mind. And 2 years later, the quite disturbing The Killing Joke came out, and I was 14 at the time, and well, that was really quite a shocking growing up moment. So shortly after it was announced that Prince was doing the soundtrack for the Batman movie that was coming, it was, like I said, it was like two worlds colliding. It was perfect, like a perfect storm for me.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be really exciting for somebody who is a major fan of both the comic book / superhero character and, of course, the musician.
Yeah.
I was more of a Prince fan than I was a Batman fan, although I was really excited for the film because it was just, this big spectacle, and I guess everybody was excited for the film if you had a pulse in 1989.
Yeah.
It just was something new, right? I mean, superhero movies had fallen a little bit out of favor. There wasn't even that many being released by the late 80s anymore. And then as far as Prince's involvement, and I mentioned this in other episodes, I was excited to see him attached to such a high-profile event after Love Sexy, which in the United States was kind of perceived in pop circles and in the mainstream media as being a little bit of a failure. It only had one top 10 pop single. You just didn't. The tour was its own thing, but as far as like the album and the singles released from it, it wasn't as big of a hit. So I was ready for him to get back on top, and I was really hoping Batman would do it, and I guess it did, right?
Yeah, and here in Europe, it was the other way around. He was Love Sexy was his, here in Europe, was his peak moment. Love Sexy was our Purple Rain, generally speaking, for most Europeans. And then came Batman, and that was, I vividly remember sitting in the back of my grandmother's car when it was announced on the radio that Prince's new single Batman would be on soon. And it was right off the heels of Love Sexy, and I'd been playing the Dortmund concert on my Walkman for hours on end. And in my mind, this had to be the best song ever. And I had pictured the complete Love Sexy band because that was the Prince I had known at that point. I had seen 2 shows at that point, Sign of the Times tour and the Love Sexy tour. And well, that band was attached to Prince as much as he was his own thing. And then I figured I would be hearing Cat again. I would be hearing Eric Leeds again, Mm-hmm. And so I asked my grandmother to turn up the radio because, well, this was going to be the best song ever. And then Batdance came on, and I was majorly disappointed because, well, it wasn't what I expected.
Sure.
And it was so different, and it was not the band that I was used to. And supposedly I turned all pale. And for months I had to hear on family gatherings that I looked gobsmacked the moment that song first came on. But I learned to love the song in the meantime, and I appreciate Batdance for what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that that reaction, but generally speaking, Batdance was an enormous hit all around the world. Like I know, and people in the United States know that it was his 4th #1 hit after When Doves Cry, Let's Go Crazy, and Kiss. This was the fourth Prince single in the United States to go to #1 on the pop charts. Only talking about the pop charts. Mm-hmm. But it was a massive hit all over the world. I'm like looking at Wikipedia, the weekly chart performance for Batdance went #1 in Canada, went #1 in New Zealand, Norway, Switzerland. Went #1 on various U.S. charts, dance charts, the R&B and hip hop charts. It went top 5 in many other countries, France and Belgium and Germany and Denmark and Italy and New Zealand, or not, I already said New Zealand, the Netherlands. It was top #4 in the Netherlands, so it was a big hit all over the world. And
absolutely.
For such a unique song, I think that is pretty fascinating. I mean, not to say that Prince's other #1 songs were not unique, because that's really kind of the common denominator thus far of Prince's #1 songs, with maybe the exception of Let's Go Crazy, were all pretty unique sounding Prince songs. When Doves Cry, super unique. Nobody else could do something like that. Nobody else has done something like that. Kiss, what a weird song, right? It was a #1 hit. He's singing in this falsetto. It's got a very simple guitar line. He screams at the end, but it went to #1. And just something about these very special, unique, interesting Prince songs that just grab people's attention, and just like, this is a Prince song that I can really get behind, even if it's something I've never heard before, or maybe because it's something I've never heard before.
Yeah, and you could argue in some cases that this song Batdance it went along with the movie hype. But for instance, in the Netherlands, the movie didn't come out until later in the year, so we didn't see the movie at that point in time. But all we had, as far as the Batman hype was concerned, was that one single at that point. So it was a unique, and it had, of course, it had something to do with the movie, but not everything can be contributed to that movie because we hadn't seen it yet.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely some of it that is just because it's Prince, and it's because of who he was and his success that led to the success of this soundtrack in parts of the world that had nothing to do with Batman. You're absolutely right. So Batdance is the final track on the album, and I think it's actually a really fitting location or placement in the track listing, having it come in last. Largely because it's upbeat, it's danceable, it's a fun way to end the album, but also because it adds so many, or incorporates so many samples from the film. It incorporates callbacks to different songs that were on the album previously, like The Future and Electric Chair. And in the flip side of this song in the United States, and I'm not sure about other countries, was 200 Balloons.
Same here.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's samples of the B-side in this song, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Because if you didn't buy the single, you wouldn't know where these samples came from, because 200 Balloons wasn't on the album. So just because of all of that, I like how it closes the album. It's like a really fitting bow to go on the package of Batdance or Batman soundtrack.
Yeah, it could be, but it also could have been the album opener, like an overture, introducing these various segments from what you were about to hear later on the album. But I agree with you that having it as a last song is probably the best place in the album.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I just can't hear it anywhere but as final song on the record at this point. No. So yeah, anyway, big hit. It was the last song created for the Batman soundtrack. According to Prince Vault, it was recorded sometime in March of 1989, and it was intended to replace a song called "Dance with the Devil," which ended up not being released in any form or fashion. Which is a
terrible shame.
Yeah, I mean, it would have made a great B-side. I'm not sure why he never even considered it as a Batman era B-side, but he didn't.
I really think you already covered Scandalous, but it would have been the perfect B-side for that because he recycled When Two Are in Love for Scandalous, which
I know
to me is very weird. Why put a song from another album as the B-side of the new album? Oh well.
Yeah, especially when you have a really strong unreleased track that had been considered and was pretty much going to be on the album until, I don't know if the story is that Tim Burton didn't want it in the movie, and so then when Prince heard that, he's just like, forget it, I'll just come up with something new, or he was just inspired to create this crazy concoction of sounds and samples and just was like, well, I guess the song that has to go is Dance with the Devil. Not sure.
Yeah. Maybe he found it too dark, like he has deleted the Black Album 2 years prior because he found the songs on that too dark. And Dance with the Devil is a very dark song, so maybe that's what why he pulled it. I don't know. It is one of the great lost tracks, if you ask me.
Yeah, the future's pretty dark too, but maybe it's he didn't want that many dark songs on a soundtrack that was supposed to appeal to a large population of potential buyers, consumers.
Probably.
Let's see. So one other things I wanted to mention about the song before we start digging into it a little further, as I kind of alluded to, there's quite a few samples of Prince songs in this song. Some of them released, some of them unreleased.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you got the same information I have. Where
and I wanted to touch on some of the unreleased stuff later.
Yeah, please do.
When they are actually sampled.
Yep. We'll kind of put a tab, fold over the page of the notebook on that one, and return back to it when it makes the most sense when those samples show up. In the song itself, but. Yeah, so he samples himself quite a bit, samples the movie a lot, and then sprinkles in some original lines. And one thing that, honestly, Edgar, I never really knew or didn't really pay attention before doing a whole lot of research for this podcast episode is apparently he utilized one of his tech crew members to sing or scream, I should say, some of the lines in the song, which I always thought was Prince.
No, it isn't. Matthew Larson, the technician you're talking about, is actually in the credits. So if you read the booklet, you can see him there. And but for years I've been wondering what he was doing there. Like you said, I also thought it was Prince, and then. In a recent interview, he came forward and saying, "No, that's me."
Yeah, right. I mean, he's in the credits, but I never really. Well, first of all, when I was younger, I didn't wasn't paying attention. I was just listening to the song. But then when I got older, I saw his name, but I'm like, well, I don't know what he did though. And now, yeah, he came forward and kind of gave all of us a peek into the creative process. And one of the very more famous lines that kind of opens up the song is one that he sings or screams, "Get the
Yeah,
funk up," and that's Matthew, I believe.
yeah, and he actually had to re-record it because
Because it was originally "Get the fuck up."
absolutely, yeah.
I'm like, I'm not sure why Prince thought that was going to fly on a
No,
soundtrack for a major motion picture that was going to
that
be
man should be
heavily
a family
scrutinized.
friendly property. Yeah.
Yeah, not gonna work, Prince. Sorry. So he had to re-record that, but it does call back a little bit to the whole fuck funk debate
Yeah,
from Erotic City from 5 years prior. So he
yeah,
was still mining uh, that kind of language trickery.
yeah. And a year later, he would do the same again with Weekend Funk on Graffiti Bridge. So
Yeah, exactly. All right. There's remixes for Batdance out there. There's some that have been released, some that are unreleased. The one that I find fascinating that's been unreleased was one by a producer named John Luongo, and it features the rapper Big Daddy Kane on it, which I was a
oh,
big fan of Big Daddy Kane back in the day. So I'd love to hear this version with his rap on it, but I've never listened to it. Have you ever heard it?
oh, I haven't heard it. No, I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, according to Princeville, there's a version of the remix version of Batdance that has a rap by Big Daddy Kane. So
I
who
should
knows?
I should dig. I should find it. I want to hear it.
Yeah, me too. Definitely. But yeah, there's like the list of remixes and different versions of this song is quite long, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but people can check them out or look it up if you want. There's a William Orbit and Mark Moore version,
Yeah, I know
just
that
like
one.
yeah, like he did with other remixes around this time. He used the same crew.
Yeah. And there was
Um,
the live version, which to me was quite disappointing. I saw the shows in 1990, which were well, the new tour was sort of a Batman tour, but at the same time it wasn't, and it was just like a long groove, and it became quite boring during those concerts. So I'm not a
mhm.
big fan of the live version of the song.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine this song really not translating that well in a live setting.
Um,
There's just too much going on, and without all of the stuff going on, it isn't as interesting of a song. Like you need all of the different samples coming in and out.
yeah,
Um, you need the aspects of the song that make it creative and unique and interesting. And without it, it's just kind of a basic jam. There's not
yeah,
musically, it's not as complex. Although I do like how, and we'll get to it as we go through the song, how it does change up the music throughout. It isn't
yeah.
steady and stay the same, which was
Oh,
something I really enjoyed about the song too. It's almost like it had different chapters that you had to
yeah,
work
yeah,
through.
absolutely. It's like a mini movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So Batdance today, I guess depends on who you talk to, but there's folks out there that look at the song as kind of a joke novelty type track in Prince's discography, kind of in the same vein of 80s novelty tracks like Pac-Man Fever or I mean like Stars on 45, just something that is of the time, doesn't really translate beyond the the era that it was released in. But for
Mhm.
me, honestly, I love this song. I loved it back then, and I love it today, and I'm unabashedly a fan of Batdance. I love the shit out of this song, and I don't know why. I can't explain it. I don't really need to explain it. I just love it.
Oh,
I think I just love the chaotic energy out of it. I just love everything about the chaos and the confusion and the mixing and mashing of different styles and samples. It
yeah,
just to me
absolutely.
comes across as massively creative. What are your thoughts on the song today, Edgar?
Well, like I said, when I first heard it, I was majorly disappointed. But I that was mostly because I was expecting something in the vein of Love Sexy or Sign of the Times, something that sounded like that. And one thing I've come to appreciate while I was growing older is that Prince would refuse to be stuck within one sound. And here you have you have him breaking out of any conventional genre and doing basically everything he feels like. That's how it feels. And to me, I still love it. It's an amazing song, and I know every single minute of it, and I love every break, every sample. I love the guitar solo in it. It's probably one of his best. And people make fun of me sometimes, saying, "No, it's not as big." Yeah, to me, it's one of his best guitar solos. So yeah, I love the track. I still do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just to bounce off of your point about it defying genre. I mean, if I take a look at the different Billboard charts that it charted in, so it charted, of course, on the Billboard Hot 100, which is basically the pop charts. Yeah. It went to number 1 on the dance charts. Makes sense. It's a very danceable song. It's made for club play. It charted, went to number 1 on the R&B and hip hop charts. And it even charted, which also makes sense, but it also charted on something called the Alternative Airplay charts, which was probably pretty new, a new chart for the late 80s, which that one to me makes less sense, but it also is fascinating to me that it was kind of so avant-garde that it was almost considered alternative, like alternative music.
Well, it is kind of, that's what I like about Prince. He's like an indie artist disguised as a global superstar.
Absolutely.
and this song is just him doing whatever he wants, and it can go anywhere. And you can be an alternative rock fan and like this song. You could be an R&B or hip hop fan and like this song, and you can be a regular pop fan and like this song. So, and that's quite an achievement.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it is, and I think that is just an indicator of how this song was so widely received, is because it could be played on so many different formats and radio formats, and make complete sense for it to do so.
Yeah.
Nobody would balk at this song being played on a college radio station because it is so kind of weird and out there.
I was a bit that it didn't end up in the movie.
Yeah.
I had hoped it would be at the end credits or something like that, but it wasn't.
Nope, they chose Scandals instead, so would have made sense, but it is what it is. Let's talk a little bit about inspiration. Prince's inspiration, or maybe others that were inspired by him. It's always, I think it's more fun to me to think about who maybe Prince was inspired by, if anybody, for the creation of a song. And when it comes to Batdance, my mind immediately goes to dance music and hip hop music.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just inspiration
takes sampling to a whole new level.
Yeah, so sampling was just starting in the late 80s to become a really important aspect of rap music being released at that time. Prior to 87, 88, most rap music had really simple drum machine beats, maybe some guitar in there, or just sampling, disco songs from the 70s, early 80s. But the sampling part of rap was really starting to become more in the forefront of the creative process. And, a band like a rap group like Public Enemy was making waves with their creative uses of sampling on It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back, which was released a year prior in 1988. But two of the biggest touch points of rap music sampling came out in 1989. But I don't necessarily think they were inspirations, because they were actually either released at the same time or after Batdance was recorded. One of them being De La Soul's 3 Feet High and Rising, which was released in March of 1989. So it's hard for me to believe that the same month that he's creating Batdance, he was tuned into this underground hip hop group that had not broken through yet, did not have a big hit, was just kind of, nobody had heard of him a whole lot outside of, New York City maybe. And then the other one being the Beastie Boys' Paul's Boutique, which was released in the summer of 1989 after the song was made. So I'm wondering if his inspiration was more from like dance music as well, which was starting to incorporate sampling in some of the club songs that were being released, or at least remixes of existing songs. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I believe that's true, because there at one point there is the sample house, which we'll get to when we get to the lyrics. But that specific sample was taken from House in Order, which in turn is sampled in 200 Balloons. But the term house music was just becoming a household name at that point, and I'm pretty sure he deliberately put that in there as a nod to let people know where he came from with this song. And
I think so too.
Kat, of course, she was no longer in the picture here, but she did the last shows with him in February of '89, and she was, of course, coming from that dance background. And the house background, so I'm pretty sure he was influenced by that.
Yeah, I think so too. And one song that I brought up in a previous episode, but I'll bring it up here because I think it makes a lot of sense in terms of potential inspiration. I mean, we're just speculating, of course.
Yeah.
Would be the song "Pump Up the Volume" by Mars.
Yeah, by Mars. I love it equally as much.
Equally as much. Yeah, it's a great song.
I love it.
But it has a lot of samples in it. So, it of course samples Eric B. and Rakim for the Pump Up the Volume kind of chorus. And then it's got famous James Brown samples that everybody can recognize. But then there's, of course, more obscure samples throughout as well. But that came out before Batdance. That was, a pretty big hit before Batdance. So he might have thought of, or might have heard that song and, like a lot of people who listen to it, really was taken aback by the creativity around the samples. Like, it wasn't just, I'm going to take this breakbeat from a disco song and just rap over it. This is like snippets and little pieces of songs that are just thrown into something that was already created, like as a bass track, and to do it in a way where it adds to the song instead of just detracting or confusing people. Like it just all melds together so seamlessly when it's all put together like that. And that's where these hip hop artists of the late 80s, early 90s were doing sampling as a creative form of music. Like they were creating new music from old samples and adding so many layers to the samples and speeding them up and slowing them down that sometimes you didn't even recognize it was a sample. You couldn't even tell. And so this song has so many samples that it's almost like you have to, like you miss some of them, I think. And if you're not paying attention, you can easily miss some samples, or you're still trying to think, where was this sample come from? But you're already 3 samples behind, still thinking about the one that you're trying to remember where that came from, or what part of the movie did that come from, or it's just a very cool way of creating music for the pop charts that a lot of people hadn't heard prior to like 88, 89. It just wasn't something being done. So he was still
it was fresh,
a little on the cutting edge. Yeah, a little on the cutting edge with this one, I have to admit.
Yeah. That's why he was on the alternative charts as well.
Yeah, right.
Was Pump Up the Volume on the alternative charts? I can't imagine it happening.
I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up, but I don't know. Definitely the dance charts, and I know the pop charts, but
it's for me as a Dutch man. I find it difficult to have all these different charts. We here in the Netherlands only have one chart, and everything is in there: hip hop, rock, pop, anything. I find it very interesting because it also gives a lot of artists more room to be in any chart. We here have in '89 we had 2 charts. which were both competing charts. One was the top 100, and the other one was the top 40. The top 40 is the most widely recognized chart here, and that the top 100 was like back in the day an attempt to have more room for more artists because of the way the charts are compiled. But if you have like an R&B chart and an alternative chart and a pop chart, you can add a lot more artists and there's a lot more room for more artists. And I quite like that. So I quite like the American system as well.
Yeah, I mean, being that it's done that way, you're right. It does allow somebody who's maybe not a crossover success, meaning like crossed over to the entire population of the United States, but very, very popular in a specific market or in a specific genre, to still, kind of earn that notoriety and just accolades, I guess, that comes along with being very successful in your lane. It's when you can cross over to different lanes where you make it to the pop charts. But I mean, as far as a metric for success, yes, I do think that is a value added part of the charting system that the United States had, because there's more than one. There should be more than one metric for success, and it shouldn't just be pop crossover appeal.
No, absolutely.
All right, so the only other real thing I wanted to mention about Batdance is a couple things, I guess. So the one I was going to mention, because I found there to be what I consider an interesting parallel for Batdance, which is you can look at Batdance as being kind of like a promotional song for the film with all the samples and, singing of the word Batman in the chorus and just being very Batman-centric. A song like The Future or Arms of Orion, they're not going to be so obviously tied to the film. Batdance is clearly tied to the film. There's no question about it. If you remember a few years later, when the Symbol album was released, Prince on the 7 single had a song called To Whom It May Concern. Yeah. Remember that song?
I remember it, yeah.
And that's basically like a commercial for his own version of his commercial for the album, the Symbol album. And what he does there is a little bit of a similar thing where he incorporates pieces of the songs but that are on the Symbol album, but doing it, instead of just sampling them, he's like singing pieces or choruses or hooks from those songs. And it just kind of reminds me, like, I wonder if he thought, like, I really liked doing that. I thought it was a neat way, an interesting way to build hype for a project of mine. This one was a build hype for a project that wasn't his, for a movie that he had nothing to do with, versus building hype for his own album. So
that's a good connection. I did not think of it, but you could be onto something here.
Yeah, I mean, whether or not it was conscious or subconscious, I don't know, but I think that there's some similarities there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way this To Whom It May Concern is built, there are definitely similarities.
And then the other thing I wanted to mention about, just real briefly, was the video, just because the video was a big piece of the promotional part of this song and this tour, or this album as well. He brought back Albert Magnoli, who was the Purple Rain director, of course, to direct this video. Do you remember seeing the video much, Edgar, at the time?
Yeah, I loved it. But what I like about it is the way that it incorporates the Batman I grew up with. The Jokers that can be seen in this video are very much designed to be the Jokers from the 1960s TV show. They're not modeled after Jack Nicholson. And there are really all kinds of little nods to those comic books I loved. At one point there's this Vicky Vale character coming with a T-shirt that says "All This and Brains Too," and that's a direct link to the Dark Knight Returns comic book, where one TV host is wearing the exact same shirt. And at another point, one of the Vicky Vale characters, two of the Vicky Vale characters, are showing off their tattoos, and those tattoos are based on drawings by Brian Bolland from the book the Killing Joke. And Brian Bolland would go on to do the cover artwork for Prince's alter ego comic. So I like all those little nods and things that, the details, they're just too much fun.
Yeah, the video is great. The video is great for all the reasons you already cited. It's just a real fun video.
Throughout the years, Prince has always been battling good versus evil within his songs, within his performances, and he does so in this video as well. He actually plays two characters, so that's what I like as well.
All right, well, I think we've had enough lead up, so let's. There's a lot to talk about with this song.
Probably more than about the lyrics, because the lyrics don't quite make sense.
Yeah, it's I think mostly what we're going to be doing is just pointing out interesting samples and kind of giving context to some of the lines in the song. Yeah. So the song starts off before there's any music with a sample from Batman, of course. It's the Joker. Oh, I got a live one here, and then he laughs hysterically. Yeah. I know that you did this as well, and I know a few of where these samples came from, and the internet has helped me. But this one is from, if I recall correctly, the part of the movie where the Joker electrocutes some mob henchman or mob boss or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that's where it comes from. It's like he's playing a joke, he's trying to be a funny guy.
Yeah. Have you seen the movie The Dark Knight by Christopher Nolan, the other Batman series?
Yep.
In more than one way, the Dark Knight is more or less a remake from this movie. This scene here, he electrocutes a gangster, and in the Dark Knight, the Joker is introduced to the mob of Gotham City by exactly doing the same. He kills a gangster. There he does it with a pencil, and here he electrocutes it. And there are more things in this movie that are more or less exactly the same as in the Dark Knight, which is fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I didn't really make that connection, but yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
All right, so then we get the lines, "Get the funk up," which are being yelled by who we believe is, what's his name, Matthew
Larson. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got, in between the lines, "Get the funk up," you hear Batman, which is a callback to the 60s TV show, because Batman. So it's that kind of Batman.
Do you know if this is a sample from that actually Batman theme, or is it newly recorded? I haven't been able to find that.
I haven't found it either, but if my instinct is that it's newly recorded.
Yeah.
I think that's something simple enough that he could re-record.
Yeah, and it's of course fun, because one of the first songs he learned to play on the piano was that Batman theme back in the 1960s. So it all comes together here.
Yeah, I think it's re-recorded, but I don't know this for a fact. I'm just speculating. No. So after a couple of those, we get another sample from the Joker, "Go, go, go with a smile." Then you hear Batdance, and then you get a first sample from 200 Balloons, the "Do It." That's gonna get repeated throughout the song. The "Do It," 200 Balloon sample. So you'll hear that more than once. And then we have another one of Prince's kind of interesting lines that he says in the song, "Keep bustin'." Yeah. Again, that will be repeated throughout the song, or periodically throughout the song as well. And then we get some more samples from, now. I wonder if this is a sample, or is this just him redoing lines?
Yeah, I think he's redoing it. He's doing it in a different tone and version. What I find interesting here is that the future, all the songs on the album are attributed to a character from the movie, and the future is on the first track on the album is Batman. And here, all these samples from the songs, we will get to the electric chair later. They are all not to attribute to those characters, but to Gemini instead. So that character that he introduced in the video. So this to me I find interesting. You had a few episodes ago. You were discussing the song "Vicky Waiting" with Julian Long, and you debated on who is actually singing the song and who is actually and what he does here by attributing these lines to the Gemini character is actually saying, you know, what you were onto there is probably right. He is approaching it from two different sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. I've seen the future and it will be. I've seen the future and it will be. Batman, and then we get the house. Do it. Yeah. House. And that's the callback to, I believe, the sample from House in Order, right?
Yeah. And which is weird because House in Order is a song from later, but we know Prince worked with Mavis Staples in the summer of 1988 in London. So my guess is they did an early take of House in Order at that point, and he just used it here and in 200 Balloons, of course.
Yeah, and he just sat on it for a few years before finally, you know, finalizing it or finishing it with her and then getting it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems the most likely. The most logical explanation for how there's a a sample from an unreleased song back in 1989 is that it was likely finished way before it was actually released.
What I found interesting as well about the line "I've seen the future," and you have to have the video with that as well, because if you look at it in the booklet of the Batman album, you say it says that it's Gemini singing this. But if you look in the video, you see the Prince character singing these lines. So he's playing with who is doing what here as well.
Yeah. Not to be confusing, right?
No.
He likes to keep us on our toes. We get another Joker sample, and where is the Batman?
Which is actually a very valid sample because Batman is hardly visible in this track. It's all Bruce Wayne or Vicky Vale or Joker, and Batman pops up near the end a little bit, but basically Batman is as good as absent within the Batdance song.
Yeah, no, you're right. He really, and that's kind of ironic, you know, that he chose that sample. That sample's pulled from the parade scene that ended up being tracked over Trust. So Trust was the song that was tracked over the parade scene where the Joker says, "Who can you trust? Me? I'm giving out free money. And where's the Batman? He's at home washing his tights." So that's where he pulls that sample from.
Yeah.
We get a bunch more of do it and let's do it.
Which is fun because originally in that parade scene where he says that 200 balloons was supposed to be there.
Yeah, that's right.
And this sample is coming from 200 balloons. So more or less.
Yeah, he's definitely playing around with that scene, calling out where's Batman when Batman really isn't. He doesn't sample Batman hardly at all in this song.
Yeah.
Using the 200 balloon samples right after a sample from the scene that 200 balloons originally was going to be used in. So yeah, a lot of cool callbacks there.
Yeah. And then there's that great guitar solo. I can talk about that for ages.
Yeah, you're right. This is where the guitar solo comes in. It kind of breaks up the first section, like the first musical section, like all those samples and the Batman and duets and Get the Funk Up. That all has kind of like the same music. And then after that, whereas the Batman sample, then we get the guitar solo that you're referring to. That is excellent, no question about it. That's an excellent guitar solo. And then it's more or less then we get the next piece of, the next chapter of the song, which is kind of like, you can call it the breakdown, you can call it whatever you want, but Prince switches up the music at this point, and it's kind of got like this funkier groove, less rock and more just kind of funk. And we get it's mostly Bruce Wayne and Vicky Vale samples going into this part.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that I noted here. Is this is mostly Vicky Vale and Bruce Wayne samples.
Yeah.
Except for at the very beginning and towards or the very beginning, which is Stop the Press, who is that, which is the Joker.
Yeah.
Then you get samples, Vicky Vale, and then you hear say, I like, and then you go to the chorus, Batman. Oh, bats, she says, and that's another sample from the movie, from Kim Basinger's lines. And then you have Michael Keaton, hi, Bruce Wayne, introducing himself. So you kind of get an image, the imagery in your mind is the two of them, talking, like having a conversation, even though it's just pulled snippets from the film.
Yeah, it's all various parts, of course. The hi, Bruce Wayne is him introducing himself to Vicky. The Vicky Vale is from earlier when she introduces herself to the reporter in the newsroom. But matched together, it works perfectly.
Yeah, it's like somebody taking a newspaper and clipping out different things, different lines or different words to create a whole new sentence or a whole new paragraph.
Yeah.
I tried to avoid all this, but I can't. That's, of course, Bruce.
Yeah.
I just got to know, are we going to try to love each other? Says Vicky Vale. Then you get the Joker again, Stop the Press, who is that? You get the Vicky Vale sample again. She's great, isn't she? Isn't that Bruce? I think that Bruce says that.
Yeah. What I like here is that this discussion, Joker is at the beginning of it, Stop the Press, who's dead, and then at the end of it, he's there again. And basically what the movie does is portraying Joker and Batman as two sides of the same coin. Both characters have created each other, both go after the same woman, Vicky Vale in this case. Both wear a mask, both even use the same language, because in that scene where Joker enters the apartment of Vicky, Bruce, and that sample is used here. I try to avoid this, but I can't. Is from that part. Bruce enters her apartment as well, and both Joker and Bruce have the same opening line when they enter that apartment. So basically, the Gemini character, as we hear or see within this song, is actually also the way the characters are portrayed in the movie, which I find very interesting.
That's fascinating. Good insight, man.
Yeah,
I like that. That whole section is really kind of cool and creative. I like the way he takes all those samples to create like a conversation, but like you said, bookended with the Joker, just kind of showing how he's intermingled with this whole dynamic between Bruce and Vicky. He's still part of it, even when they're supposed to be, coming together.
Yeah.
Then we get Prince, and this is the ooh yeah, I want to bust that body. Ooh yeah, I want to bust that body right. And then we get a sample from Bruce. I'd like to. And he repeats that, ooh yeah, and then we get another sample, but he's out there right now. Do you remember who says that? But he's out there right now? Probably Bruce, right?
That's Bruce. And what I like here is that within the lyric booklet, the oh yeah, I want to bust that body part is attributed to Gemini once again. And basically Gemini is acting like a little angel and a devil on Bruce's shoulder. He wants to commit to that woman. So and so the Joker side of him is saying, forget the world, just go with her. And then the angel on the other side saying, no, I have to go and fight crime, which is important, So I like that the duality here.
Oh yeah, and the samples matched up with that entirely. So the I'd like to, meaning I like to bust that body, meaning I'd like to go with Vicky, have sex with her, yada yada. But then, like you said, he's out there right now. He's out there right now, meaning like I really shouldn't be engaging in this because there's evil afoot. The Joker's still out there menacing people in Gotham City, and I've taken it upon myself to protect the residents of this city. So I'd have to give up my fleshly pleasures and and do what I need to do.
Yeah.
So that is really cool. I like that too. Okay, so then after that whole section, we get a whole like almost like monologue quote from the Joker. Well, Miss Vale, ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? I always ask that of all my prey. I just like the sound of it, and then you hear the screams of Vicky. And this is all kind of like most of the samples have been just snippets or lines or words, but here he's got like this whole. Decides to take this whole section of lines from the Joker and insert them here. I mean, I like it. I like that he did that because it is kind of a way to kind of break up the sections of song to insert this in here and give it a pause. And then we got the Dance with the Devil reference, which is where he pulled the name of the song that ended up not getting released. Anything you want to mention about this section, Edgar?
No, I like this that sentence. Ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight is a very important part within the movie because right before Bruce Wayne's parents are killed, by the Joker, who's then still Jack Napier, and Bruce Wayne is still a child. He says that before shooting, and then years later, Bruce hears him say it once again, and then he realizes, oh no, this is the guy that killed my parents. So in the movie, this is a significant part. So I like that Prince highlighted it by expanding, especially this little part, instead of just using a small sample.
Yeah, I mean, it's to your point, it's a very significant plot development for him to hear that again and realize he's fighting his parents' murderer. So and have it be something as poetic but also chilling. That's a very cool part of the movie, and to incorporate in the song just again adds that cool element into what is already a pretty cool song.
And what I like about it is that that Joker then says that it doesn't mean very much to him. He just likes the sound of it.
Exactly.
To that little boy whose parents got murdered, it means a whole lot. And when he hears it years later, it still means a lot. So for one of them, it means nothing. He just likes to say it, and for the other, it means a lot. So that's like I said, it's very significant that Prince used all of that.
Mm-hmm. And to kind of follow that up, then after this whole Joker monologue, we get Bruce or Batman. I don't remember who's saying at this point. It's Bruce. Okay.
Yeah.
I've got to go to work. Batman, I've got to go to work. Which again, if you're looking at it as a story, Joker's still out there. He's still menacing people. He's still threatening Vicky Vale. He's got to go to work. He's got to continue fighting.
If you approach this as a story, this is the moment where he actually chooses. And a few lines earlier, he's still doubting. Oh, I want to bust that body, but he's out there right now. And then you hear that Dance with the Devil part, and then he decides, okay, I got to go to work. That's more important.
Yeah, exactly. He's made his choice now. And this is where we get electric chair lines re-recorded. If a man is considered guilty for what goes on in his mind, then give me the electric chair for all my future crimes. Oh, and you got work being repeated, work throughout that. The electric chair. So there we go. There's our other callback to earlier in the album.
I was thinking you should do the screams as well, but I'm not going to do it.
No, those Prince screams I do not repeat. I don't even attempt. Just me even attempting to sing on these episodes is pushing the envelope a little bit for my skill level.
But like I said, I like the bigger part of Electric Chair here, and it's within the music video you actually see an electric chair here with a gun, and it implies that that's coming up next, of course, but it implies that he's contemplating in either killing or not killing, and that's why it's interesting that the electric chair part is attributed to Gemini here and not to Joker, like or Batman or whoever, because it's again two sides of the same coin. So I like the way he did that.
Yeah, me too. So we still have the same kind of music going on throughout the the background of these lines and these sections of the song. So this is still kind of like in my mind the middle piece of the song.
Is that, do you think when looking at Prince Fault they don't say it as much, but I believe that what you're hearing in the background is actually taken from a sample from Rave Unto the Joy Fantastic, the song.
There's supposed to be rave samples in here. I just never really knew what it was. So is this what you think? Is this what you believe?
I think this part that you just mentioned is the rave part.
Ah, okay. Yeah, very much could be. Now that you say that, I'm hearing it. So I've always heard or understood that there's rave samples in here. I just wasn't sure where.
No, I looked at Prince Fault as one does when doing these things, and there it says that the rave samples are in a few of the remixes, but it doesn't specifically say that it's also in this. But I truly believe this is a rave sample.
Very well, it could be.
Yeah.
All right, so then we get another line that is original to the song, not a sample. Hey, Ducky, let me stick the 7-inch in the computer. Yeah. Hey, we got the power. Oh, we got the soul. We got to show enough get off to make the devil go. And then we get the sample. This town needs an enema. But let's back up. Let's back up. Let's back up to the hey, Ducky, let me stick the 7-inch into the computer line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, to me, it's always been a double entendre. I mean, there's the 7-inch floppy disk that you could buy, and this would have been one of the modes of, media transport via computer or to an electronic sampling program or machine. But then you've got the double entendre piece because it's Prince, and so it could also be something else that, when it's not floppy, can be inserted. So
yeah, I know.
I think everybody listening knows.
As someone else mentioned, even within his body of work, she needed 7 inches or more. So
exactly, this seems to be the magic number when it comes to Prince referencing phalluses in his songs. So it's dirty, but it's not Ducky? Dirty. Yeah, who the hell's Ducky exactly? The only Ducky I know is the Ducky from 16 Candles. Yeah. Or no, wait, Pretty in Pink. Pretty in Pink. That's the movie that Ducky's in. So I don't know any other Ducky besides John Cryer and Pretty in Pink. So I don't think he was referring to him.
I hope not.
So I don't know.
What's interesting is this is actually the first time, if you look in the booklet again, that Prince himself is brought up as a character. This is Prince saying, "Hey, Ducky, let me stick the 7-inch in the computer." It's not Gemini, it's not Bruce, it's not Joker, it's Prince, which is odd. Why would he step in there, say this, and disappear again?
Yeah.
Strange.
Yeah, exactly.
What's he doing in the story here?
He's making dirty jokes is what he's doing. Yeah. Dirty jokes that, get past the censors because they can also mean something very, very innocent.
Yeah. He just does it because just to let people know, I'm Prince, and that there has to be some sex in a song, and it's busted body is but this is better. So
yeah, and actually the whole "this town needs an enema" line, the sample from the Joker here, is where I believe the radio edit then ends. Because I remember very distinctly hearing this song on the radio more than I heard, the full album version. And I believe it goes, "This town needs an enema," and then you get the maniacal laughing at the end. They cut out everything between now and the end of the song for the radio edit. So I just remember that was always a very striking way to end the radio edit version, with a sample saying, "This town needs an enema."
Yeah. But it's also fitting because if you look at the movie Joker, when he says that, he has this huge boxing glove on a stick, and he uses it to punch out the television. And so basically, it's the Joker just turning off the media. In this case, the radio. This town needs an enema.
Yeah.
Done.
Fitting.
Yeah.
So then we get.
I just want
this
to
section.
touch on
Oh yeah.
the power and the soul stuff, which is a sample
Yep.
from the song "We Got the Power." And this is very much, to me, at least, a continuation of the Love Sexy themes. You know, that's where he introduced the terms "new power, soul," um, and um, and this song in particular is also battling light and dark in a very obvious way. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, even though this album is presented like a standalone album within Prince's body of work, it actually is, especially this song, to me at least, a sort of manifestation of the battle that's between the light and the dark that was like album Love Sexy back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in this part, um, with the Joker saying, "Hey, we got the power," and then the Batdance dancers saying, "Oh, we got the soul." So the power is fun, but the soul is more important. That's the message here.
Well, yeah, and that message continues. So you
Yeah,
got a couple references to the devil. You got the Joker sample, "Dance with the Devil" in the pale
yeah,
moonlight. You got "Here to Make the Devil Go." So we kind of call backs to, of course, the Love Sexy, dark and light, um, spooky electric, Love
yeah,
Sexy, and
yeah,
then the whole power soul. We got the power, we got the soul. Then it goes right into this "I'm gonna kill you" sample, power
yeah,
in the background. I'm not gonna
yeah.
kill you, soul in the background. I'm gonna kill you, power in the background. I'm not gonna kill you sample, soul in the background. So it keeps going.
Yeah.
That
And
duality.
what's interesting is that there's the "Let's Do It" sample is right behind soul. So that's to me at least, the message is, don't kill him. Let's go for the soul. Let's do it.
Yeah, save your soul, right?
Yeah,
Save your soul by doing the right thing.
yeah. Basically, maybe it's far fetched, but basically that's what this segment means to me.
No,
Yeah,
I
save your
agree.
soul.
I agree. I don't think
Yeah,
it's far fetched at all. I think these samples were really intentional, and the fact that he's got these samples of "I'm going to kill you, I'm not going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, I'm not going to kill you," right
yeah,
after saying power and soul,
yeah,
to me is pretty clear that what he's trying to convey here is that
yeah,
there's a conflict going on, not just a physical conflict, but also a decisive conflict with your spirituality and your emotional well-being and decision making that one has to make when you're going to do the
yeah,
right thing or versus doing the wrong thing in life,
yeah.
following the light path, following the dark path.
Yeah.
So
And
it's all
and
right
this is
here.
Yeah, and this is where Prince kind of rewrites the story of the movie, because Batman, as a character, doesn't kill, and one of the big complaints of a lot of people, of the '89 movie, is that Batman does kill in this movie. A lot of Joker's henchmen are killed by Batman, as he has them explode in a factory and stuff like that. And he shooting bullets at them from the Batmobile. So Prince
Mm-hmm.
is rewriting it here. Um, his Batman doesn't kill.
Yeah, even though he thinks that he doesn't want to, sometimes
Yeah,
it's the means to the end. But this is the part of the song where we finally get Batman. So like we
yeah,
had earlier been talking about mostly Bruce Wayne, Vicky Vale, and the Joker, but now we finally get Batman.
yeah.
"I'm Batman," he says. "I'm
That's all
Batman.
he says.
I'm Batman." And behind it is you got the screaming Matthew Larson, I believe, again saying, "Don't
Yeah,
stop dancing.
yeah,
Don't stop dancing." And then you get more duets from 200 Balloons. So this is where the song starts to kind of get hectic. Not that it hasn't been hectic up to this point, but we're building to the natural conclusion.
yeah,
Again, lots of samples, lots of aspects of the song, like the Batman being sung again, "Don't Stop" from the "Don't Stop Dancing" being sampled and truncated. "Let's Do It" and "Do It" from 200 Balloons. More "Don't
yeah,
Stop Dancing." "Let's do it, Batman. Don't stop dancing." And then you get more screaming, "No, damn it, turn the music back up, you son of a bitch." So all of this is cut out of the
yeah,
radio edit version, but it's on the album version.
yeah. What I find interesting here is that, that's the whole "no, damn it, turn the music back up, you son of a bitch" part is edited from the lyrics, in the booklet. It's not there. So
Uh,
when researching this podcast, the first thing I did was take the lyric booklet, and I was going, there's this part missing. So I don't know why he cut that out, but it's not in the booklet.
Yeah, you're right. It isn't. I mean, some of these lines, like, these are things that Prince just wanted him to scream for whatever reason, and maybe he was going to do something with them, not do something with them. It's more of like just another sample. It's just a unique, discrete sample that's unrelated to the film. So just a sample that Prince wanted, but probably couldn't find anybody, or couldn't find a sample that fit. So he's like, I need to create my own samples. So I'm going to have this dude yell it, and I'm going to sample it.
Yeah, well, I want to back up a little bit. The I'm Batman sample. I like the story of that because the original part, I'm Batman, is also sampled in the future, of course. But the original script says that when the thug asks, "Who are you?" The original script said, "I am the Knight." And if you read the comic book from the movie, which I read as a kid. Because of the movie being very late here in the Netherlands, like I said, it didn't come out for months after. So we had the comic book and we had the Prince soundtrack. And in the comic book, it still says, "I am the Knight." And Michael Keaton improvised at that point, "I'm Batman." And it's such a powerful sentence that even within this song, it really stands out to me. So I really like that Prince used it here.
Yeah. I wouldn't have known that because I wasn't an avid reader of the comics, so thanks for filling me in on that. I didn't know that it was an improvised line. Yeah,
it's one of the best improvisations ever because "I'm Batman" is just it's still used in various incarnations of the character throughout the years.
Yeah.
So we have to go back to the Joker now.
Yes, we have to go back to the Joker. The Joker says, "Have you ever heard of the healing power of laughter?" And then we get another sample from 200 Balloons. Who's going to stop 200 balloons? Nobody. Then we get Batman again. Somebody saying Batman, and then you hear Michael Keaton say stop. Yeah. And that's the song.
Yeah, which is funny because there are 2 points in the song. If you take the lyric booklet, there are attributed to Prince himself, which is the "Hey Ducky" part, and the stop in the end.
But that's not Prince, though.
but it's not him. It's from the part of the movie where Batman uses a voice control to stop the Batmobile.
Yes.
So it's really weird that in the video you see him say stop, but it isn't him. So I haven't a clue why he went there himself, or why he included himself in the booklet right here and just not use the Batman character, which would have made much more sense.
Yeah, totally. I don't get that either. But honestly, it sounds like it could. I mean, if you're not paying attention, it sounds like Prince. I mean, that's like Prince's speaking voice.
Yeah.
The Batman. So Michael Keaton's voice versus the voice he uses to play Batman, because Batman's always known to have like a much lower register, and Christian Bale's character version of Batman took that to the nth degree with it being real raspy and growly. But Michael Keaton did it too. I mean, he made sure to lower his register when he was speaking as Batman, and Prince is famously known for having a low speaking voice, which people are surprised at when they hear him talk, if you're used to hearing his singing voice, especially his falsetto. So the stop at the end of the song sounds like it could be Prince if you're not familiar with the film or familiar with that scene where Batman says that. So
yeah,
he could trick somebody into thinking it was him saying it if he wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is the perfect ending to this song. So
oh yeah, stops on a dime. Like, it's chaos, 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 stop.
Yeah.
And then that's the song, and that's also the album. That's a great way to see. This is what I like about. Well, I guess some streaming services you can stop it from replaying, but when I would have like this on my iPod back in the day, it would just, unless you told it otherwise, it would just repeat the album over and over and over, like it would be on auto repeat. Yeah. And I like the fact that it's if this song is the ending for the album, that you stop it and then you don't just automatically go right back into the album, because I feel like you need to sit with it for a little bit. Yeah. And just kind of catch your breath after this song is over, because it is pretty intensely chaotic, as I've mentioned before, and I like just the immediate closure that we get from the album in the song by stopping it in that way.
Absolutely.
Well, that is Batdance, Edgar. That is Batdance.
Yeah.
I can't believe we've talked for over an hour on Batdance on a lyrics podcast.
No, I can't either. Especially with these kinds of lyrics. You know, for like you mentioned earlier, first we did the Glam Slam, which is, well, lyrically it doesn't really make sense. And now this one, which
fun to talk about though.
Yeah, it's very fun to talk about. And like you, I love this song dearly, so I can talk about it for hours on end if I have to. There's so much going on, and there's so much, well, just fun things going on. That's to me the most important. This is a fun song.
Yeah, and I think you did a really wonderful job of providing context, helping provide context where there's in the way that the song was structured, in the way that the song was built around these samples. It isn't just samples for sample's sake. Like, I think he's really trying to have some sort of mini narrative that goes on throughout this song, and these samples are helping us as the listener understand what this narrative means, telling little stories within the song, adding them in a way that logically makes sense. Instead of just throwing shit up against the wall and seeing what sounds good, it's like there's some logic behind it. And that's what I think what we were able to do in this episode is provide a little bit of context around the samples and the logic, why they were added, why they were included, and why they were in the order that they were in.
Yeah, basically, this is Prince's fan edit of the movie in the musical version. And like you said, he did pay attention, and he does try to convey a message here. And what I find interesting is that a lot of people say, well, this was an easy song, he just threw it together. And, well, he might have just threw it together, but there's obviously a lot of thinking that has gone into this. And he should have watched the whole movie multiple times to get the right samples, because you can't, if you see the movie only, we see the movie and we hear the samples immediately, but he had to work with a rough cut, and maybe he even had to work with a version that he had to edit again, because the sample he used didn't end up in the eventual movie. So
good point.
So this is a very impressive piece of layer building and building a story here. So in that sense, it is an impressive song.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree 100% with that. I think it's just as difficult, if not more difficult, to do a song like this than it is just to, write a very traditional guitar-based or piano-based song. Not to say that that's easy either. Of course, it's not easy. No. I can't do it. But to do something this interesting and unique and make it come off as, or have it come off as being a cohesive piece of art couldn't have been easy, and he didn't do it a lot either.
No, especially in the late 1980s when the technology was there, of course. Like you mentioned, Pump Up the Volume was way ahead of its time as well. But it wasn't easy. These days, you cut and paste everything in your computer, and you can throw a song like this together in, well, few minutes if you really want to. But back in the day, the technology was a lot less advanced. So it was possibly a lot of work to have it fit like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm sure this took quite a bit of time. Yeah, we know Prince was a workaholic, but wow.
But we sometimes forget that things we take for granted, like now, stuff you can film on your telephone, you can make pictures, you can remix anything you want in a few seconds. And back in the day, it was a lot of hard work. And we tend to forget that the process we now know is totally different from the process like 35 years ago.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. he put a lot of time and effort. So I'm glad that this song was successful for him, and I'm glad it was an integral part of the film, and or not the film so much, but of the soundtrack at least, and of the rollout of the soundtrack and lead up to the movie. So it earned every accolade that it received, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it should be mentioned that the song is not on most of the compilation albums. It was one of his biggest hits, but probably Rights Hell with all the samples going on. But the song isn't on. I don't believe it's on any of his greatest hits compilations.
You might be right. There might be one, the Forever compilation.
Forever, maybe, but it wasn't. It wasn't on the hits to B-sides, and it wasn't on
Ultimate Prince or the very best. Yeah.
No. Which is
basically all the ones that were released when he was still alive. It's not on.
Yeah. But maybe that was Warner being angry at him, with all the stuff that was going on. So
sure.
If you want to be difficult, we are not going to clear those samples of our movie.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Edgar, do you have any other final thoughts about the song, or do you think we've captured everything?
I think we captured everything.
I think so too.
Yeah, and I love talking about this song, but we have captured the most important stuff. Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Well, where can people find you and what you're doing on social media, Edgar?
Well, you can find me. I'm not going to try to say my name in English. Edgar Kruijsen on Twitter, on Instagram, and everywhere. I am the host of the Prince Twitter thread series, which you are a contributor to as well, and which we thank you very much. I do that together with my co-host UMB, and well. That's basically what I'm doing. I'm also trying to do some more stuff on YouTube. I did a video about the cloud guitars a while ago, and I'm working on a video about Prince being a comic book character, which ties in neatly with this Batdance obsession of mine. But I don't think it will be ready soon because I'm a noob when it comes to videos. So, but I will get to it eventually.
Okay. So. Well, I'll point people in the direction of your YouTube, so that way, whenever it does go up, they'll be able to find it. No problem.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks again, Edgar, for being on. This has been the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast. I'm your host, Jason Brenninger. You can find the show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. PressRewind.net is the website I use to host the show. You can find episodes there if you're, not using your most favorite podcast catcher. Also do some writing on that blog every once in a while. So pop in, say hi, and until next time, goodbye.